Hello, everybody, and welcome to my movie review slash podcast. If you're listening over on Spotify and or Discord for Imaginary. What song played was the Chauncey song by Bear McCreary, which, if I am correct, he made one of my favorite horror movies of 2019, which a lot of people really don't um, like at all, called Child Play. And ironically, not the original Child's Play, the remake. Um, and what did Bear McCreary do things for? Last Voyage of the Demeter, uh, Godzilla King of Monsters. I think he did God of War Ragnarok. Really? Why do I not believe that? Oh, maybe I'm not correct. I swear. Child's Play. Bear McCreary. Yeah, Child's Play. I'm so confused. I'm very confused. Oh, also did Blumhouse's Fantasy Island. I like that movie. Uh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of Blumhouse's Fantasy Island, Imaginary is the newest release from Blumhouse. This movie's plot. From Blumhouse, the genre-defying masterminds behind Five Nights at Freddy's and Megan, comes an original horror that taps into the innocence of imaginary friends and begs the question: Are they really figments of childhood imagination, or is something more terrifying lying just beneath? When Jessica DeWanda Wise, that's a lovely name, I love that name, moves back into her childhood home with her family, her youngest stepdaughter, Alice Piper Braun, develops an eerie attachment to a stuffed bear named Chauncey. She finds in the basement. Alice starts playing games with Chauncey that begin playful and become increasingly sinister. As Alice's behavior becomes more and more concerning, Jessica intervenes only to realize Chauncey is much more than the stuffed toy bear she believed him to be. So the first thing I want to note, yes, it's from the producers of Five Nights at Freddy's and Megan, which obviously Five Nights at Freddy's is their biggest hit of all time. So putting that on there makes sense. And Megan is a pretty well-known horror film. Which, basic rundown, I like Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't love Megan. Maybe if I haven't done a movie review on Five Nights at Freddy's, I might be able to do that at some point. And if I haven't done a movie review on Megan, I could do that at some point too, hopefully. But basically, what's really interesting about this movie is I think this might be the first Blumhouse movie that they worked with Lionsgate on, which is a little bit weird because if you don't know, Blumhouse is like a smaller company, right? Like they make their own movies, all of them are produced by them, but they typically have Universal behind them releasing a major film. And I'm really confused and interested why Lionsgate and Blumhouse are working together on this one. I like it because I like Lionsgate a lot, but it's weird because like they're pretty much like I thought they were pretty much known as a Universal studio. Like they were worked on Universal, DreamWorks, Illumination, and Blumhouse are like what I'd call Universal companies. Like every DreamWorks movie is a Universal movie. Every previous Blumhouse movie for a while, at least some pretty major ones, were all Universal. Five Nights at Freddy's, Megan, Night Swim, even though that movie sucked. Like most of them are Universal. I don't know about. I actually don't know about Fantasy Island. Oh, Fantasy Island is a Sony movie. Okay, well, Blumhouse worked with Sony. I didn't realize that this was a Sony movie. That's interesting. That's very, very interesting, actually. So I guess it's just normal for them to work with different companies, which is good. First off, it's good to be able to have that connection wise thing because then you can get more movies out, right? Like the fact that they got Night Swim out in January and they got Imaginary out in March, 2 months apart, means that they can make more movies because they have more companies to work with, more people to work with, and they're not overworking the teams that they have working on the films. So, Blumhouse's newest addition, Chauncey the Bear. This is the primary antagonist behind this horror film. It is rated PG-13. So PG-13 is typically a pretty rough category. You can either be really, really good, or it can be really, really bad, like Truth or Dare. With Truth or Dare is like one of those fun but stupid movies I like watching. Like I'll watch Truth or Dare every once in a while, and it's just a fun, stupid movie. It's not good, but it's fun, stupid. Um, Imaginary follows, as I said, Jessica and her daughter Alice, her stepdaughter Alice. And from the get go, I really like all the characters in this movie. It starts off strong. Um, but this movie overall is incredibly slow. Now, is that a bad thing? No, because there's a difference between slow and like suspense. So the movie is slow, but it's also suspenseful. It's more suspense than jump scare, and it's more suspense than horror. Which I mean, suspense and horror are the same thing. Don't get me wrong, but like for example, they do a lot of shots, and the design of what it looked like in this creature looked like in the shadows kind of reminded me of Insidious, which makes sense because Insidious is a Blumhouse franchise, at least Insidious, the last one that came out, the Red Door. I think that's the last one. I think so. Um, that one was the last one that they came out with, and obviously it's something that they make. So obviously the producers have some things in mind and share their ideas. Obviously to the people who make these movies, because they're also putting a lot of their money into these movies. And with that design in the background, the way that it plays off is really, really nice because you don't you don't have it always in your face. A lot of the jump scares in this movie are false jump scares. And a lot of the real horror comes from the background. See a shadowy figure. Actually, I watched this movie with a friend, and the first time the shadowy figure was in the background, he didn't notice it. And they love doing this shot where it's in frame, then the character walks out of frame, and then it pans back and the character's gone. Or you're looking at the bear, it pans away, it comes back, and the bear is moved. Or its head's moved. You know? And it is interesting because with that sense of moving back and forth, they don't show. It still kind of plays with your mind of if it's real or not. Like, is this imaginary? There's something not quite right because you never see fluid movement until toward the third act of the film. Um, you don't see Chauncey move fully until, and not even really fully, until towards the end of the film. Now, obviously, there's much more to Chauncey than meets the eye. And that's what the description even states, is there's more. Chauncey is much more than the stuffed toy bear she believed him to be. And there's a twist in this movie that works for me. I can understand why a lot of people may not like it. And I definitely feel like people may not like it. And on top of it, the last act. So I haven't really done a review on Smile, but the last act of Smile, that movie, has this. They use this tactic to trick. They use a scene to trick the viewers in Smile, and it like has how do I describe this? It's forced. Like it's not built into the movie, it's forced in the movie. They force you into being shocked. And they use a scene to shock and awe you in the movie and being like, "Oh, what? No." Whereas this one, yes, it uses a very very similar thing in its third act too, to Smile, which is very similar. Sorry. Very similar as a matter of fact. But especially with the title Imaginary, the scene fits better in this movie. It makes a lot more sense given the context of the ending and given the context of what is happening. And it makes a lot more sense there than it did in Smile for me. And I did not like Smile. It was definitely, good with its jump scares, well built, well suspenseful, but the ending sucked. I'm not a huge fan of Smile. I do own it on 4K because I bought the Paramount Collection first horror collection that came with Sweeney Todd on 4K. So I have it because it's in there, but it's not a movie that I would recommend to many people, and I disagree with the such high score that movie has on Rotten Tomatoes, especially. But it works well in here. And you'd think that this movie being mostly suspense wouldn't, you know, would be upsetting, but it's not. And speaking of this, if you've ever watched Dead Meat and Kill Counts, whenever he eventually gets to this movie and does a kill count for this movie, the kill count's going to be interesting. I'm not going to give many details, but it's a very interesting kill count. Um, I'm sure that there's been other kill counts similar, especially in the number of kills in this movie. I think there's probably some that have been very similar, but it was one of those things where I watched it and I was like, wait, how many deaths were there? And then I started counting all of them. And if a movie can keep me enthralled, and then I look back and I see, and you'll understand when you watch it how many deaths there really were in the film, and you're kind of shocked by the fact that you you were enthralled by a movie, or you were captured, and even if you didn't love it, you were still like there in the movie, and you didn't really pay attention while you were watching to the kills that were going around. You were just in the movie. I find that pretty impressive. Now, obviously, like, it's not going to be the end all break all of the movie, but it's pretty impressive when a movie can do that. And I do, like, genuinely appreciate that about the movie. Now, I will say, this movie, so when they show Chauncey the bear on the poster, Chauncey the bear is most of this movie. They do not show the real thing until much, much later into the movie. They don't show the background until the third act. They have suspense and suspense and suspense. So like Chauncey is really the icon of this movie. So that imaginary poster that is just Chauncey the bear with his red little coat and the tile, which that tile, by the way, does make sense in the movie, kind of. The color scheme makes sense. There's a reason. It may not be obvious when you watch the movie, but I can understand it. That is really the movie. The poster, is as simple as it is, really embodies the movie. It's about Chauncey. It's very simple. But the premise lying on it is kind of, are imaginary friends real? And if so, I don't just want to simply say, are they good or are they bad? Because it's more complicated than that. But if I give you any more information, I'll be spoiling the movie. And I do not want to do that for you. So, I will leave it at good or bad. If Imaginary Friend was good or bad. And obviously we have If coming out later in the year, which is really weird that two separate studios had movies like this. And I'm wondering, uh what studio is this? Is this Paramount? It is Paramount. So If is a Paramount movie. I was gonna say if it was Universal, it would make sense, but it's not. It's Paramount. Um, and also, I kind of it kind of makes sense to me. In a way, why Lionsgate took this up. Lionsgate's movies this year have been not big titles. Lionsgate had Ordinary Angels, which I really liked. Lionsgate had, I think, a different movie as well come out. They had some smaller titles come out. And then they had this one. Whereas Universal's movie right now, and maybe with the time frame of Imaginary and what was going on, maybe Universal knew that they were just not going to have room on their docket for it, so they chose not to take on that movie, and they'd rather have Kung Fu Panda 4, which is what released the same week as Imaginary, which is it makes sense. You're not gonna like I'd imagine, even though the audiences are vastly different, you'd want to minimize how many movies you have in theaters at one time, because sometimes you can draw away your audience from one movie to another movie. Like, even though Dune 2 is still doing really well, some of the audience got pulled away. Some people who grew up with Kung Fu Panda are going to watch Kung Fu Panda. And it's just kind of what it is, you know what I mean? But it makes sense to me, and I'm glad that Lionsgate has this movie, and I'm glad that Blumhouse worked with them. I don't know if there's another Blumhouse movie that is a Lionsgate movie, but I'm happy with it. There's a really really cool scene later on in the movie, in this movie, that uses kind of like a like if you've seen the which I remember in theaters when Five Nights at Freddy's came out, there was a trailer for Imaginary, and the trailer was just telling you to close your eyes and imagine. Which was kind of interesting because the movie itself didn't really involve that all that much, which is kind of weird. Good marketing though, very good marketing. But like those like night lights, the like spinning like carousel night lights that the lights on the inside and you have shapes on the outside. It actually just popped up on the IMDb page that I'm looking at right now, the trailer, and it did this really cool kind of like trick idea with that in one of the scenes that led to a jump scare, and I really liked it. It was creepy because they didn't throw it at your face. One of the biggest problems with horror films when you're building, which Smile did get right, when you're building jump scares, sometimes you want them to be sudden. Like sometimes you just want it to pop, right in your face. But sometimes you want the jump scare to build. And you want to have that suspense, and you want it to be a slow build up. You don't want it to always be jump scare in your face here, jump scare in your face there, jump scare in your face here, jump scare in your face there, because true horror, unlike and sometimes, granted, sometimes you want to watch a movie where it's just jump scare after jump scare after jump scare. And that's like Insidious. Insidious is very much jump scare after jump scare after jump scare. But this movie is mostly the build up scares. They have build up scares, build up scares, build up scares. The one I'm talking about is a build up scare that leads to that kind of a scare. It leads to that jump scare. I did not even mean to do that. That was not intentional, guys. That was a dumb joke. That was super not intentional. Okay. Well, anyways, and I liked it. And it was unsettling. Like, you knew something was wrong and it was a slow build up. Like, here's the thing. Is this movie the best thing Blumhouse has made? No. Definitely not. Does every single horror movie Blumhouse makes have to be amazing? No, it does not. Um, and I know Five Nights at Freddy's has a very vast, like, kind of like back and forth of is it good? And for me, I really like that movie, like a lot for multiple reasons. But, but, you know, not every movie has to be amazing. This movie is not terrible. It's not amazing. It's in between. It's a solid watch. It's better than most standard, typical horror films. And, you know, a lot of horror films just get kind of thrown to the wayside because they're bad. I mean, and then some movies, like, for example, Talk to Me, that everyone loved, except me and some other people that I'm sure didn't like it. Um, like, yeah. Anyways, side tangent, weird side tangent. But basically, what I'm saying is it's not an amazing movie, but it's good. You know what I mean? It's a solid movie. I'd give it probably 3.5 out of 5 stars, I think is what I've landed on. Um, Now, what I will say is, you noticed I forgot to put in the Kung Fu Panda 4 movie review. I forgot to put a trailer in front of it and behind it. Oopsies, sorry. But I will be putting a trailer for this movie afterward. The only problem is the couple of good scares. One of them is used in the first trailer, which is the one I'm going to be showing. And the one I really like is in the second trailer. I highly recommend you do not watch the second trailer. I highly recommend that if you're going to watch it, you just watch the first trailer and you move on. Gives you an idea of what the movie is. But this is the kind of movie that I knew about it. I don't know if I ever fully watched a trailer for this movie. I can't remember. It may have been on in the background when I was going to watch a movie and I kind of was just ignoring it. Like, I'm sure it was on Five Nights at Freddy's or some other movies that I was watching, but I didn't notice it. So, but I will say that if I had seen this trailer, either of them, and then watched the movie, I do think that the trailers give a little bit too much. The first one, I think, is a little bit more coherent. I can't speak, and gives you a better idea of the overall movie. But showing some of your good jump scares in the trailer is not ideal. It's not an ideal way of going about a trailer. You wanna like you can show scary moments, but like don't show like the best scary moments you have. And they definitely left some stuff out. Don't get me wrong. There's still plenty they left out. Sorry, but it's important that you create a trailer without spoiling too much. Some horror movies show off all their good scares in the trailer, and then you go and watch the movie and you're like, well, you showed me this in the trailer. Why should I be excited about watching this movie? Because you showed all your best jump scares in the trailer. You know what I mean? But anyways, one more note about this movie. Betty Buckley, who I knew she looked familiar. She's probably the biggest actress in this movie, actor or actress. This is a pretty small cast. It's another reason why I like Blumhouse is because they're willing to give, like, a lot of these actors, you'll see them, and when they get cast in the movie, you'll watch them in the movie, you go look at their other stuff, and they're, like, mostly TV. And then I'm like, they actually did a pretty good job in the movie. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of a thing. You're like, they're not actually that bad. But they're just like, this is like a TV actor. Or they've been in some small things, nothing you've heard of. No big movies that you're like, oh yeah, them. Betty Buckley is one of them. Is like, oh, I've heard of her. She's known for Split, which is also another Blumhouse movie, unironically. Also known for The Happening, which is an M. Night Shyamalan movie that is hilarious. Stupid hilarious, but hilarious nonetheless. And those are the ones that I particularly know her from. But again, being a fan of Blumhouse, it's a decently big deal for me. A decently big deal. But yeah, so I do think that basically wraps up this movie review. And the imaginary friend, whatever it may be, I'm gonna cut out what I just said because I think that's too much spoiler territory. The design of these characters in this movie, like Chauncey the Bear, for example, simplistic but very unique. Like, what would an imaginary friend look like? You know, like if you actually saw them, what would they look like? Interesting thoughts, right? Think back to your imaginary friend. You know. Also, I love the set in the third act of this movie. I really like it. I hope it was. I mean, obviously some of it was CGI for sure, but I'm hoping a decent bit of it was practically done, because that's really cool if some of it was practically done. For sure. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this movie review on Imaginary. If you're listening over on Spotify or Discord, thank you so much. And here's the next thing I want to know. Blumhouse Movies 2024. I want to know Imaginary. That's just imaginary. All of it's about imaginary. Here's the thing. I want to know if there's any more like upcoming Blumhouse movies. But I'm not seeing any other movies coming out. Welcome to the Blumhouse. Is that an actual movie? I don't think so. No. Original movies. Movie releases weeks before a kid's film. Ooh, upcoming. Yes. Is Speak No Evil? Wolfman, October. Oh. Oh, okay. So does it seems like there's a movie called Wolfman in October right now and Speak No Evil in September with James McAvoy, which makes sense because James McAvoy worked on Split and Glass, which Glass was not a Blumhouse movie, but Split was. Okay. Okay. I guess I'm excited for those movies now, I guess. But yeah, so thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. And stay tuned for, well, if you're on Spotify, you have to go watch the video for it. But unless it gets taken down, because sometimes it might get taken down, there will be a trailer afterward. And other than that, if you're interested, give Imaginary a look-see. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.
How does it feel being back?
Good. I had such good memories here. Maybe my happy place can be our happy place?
Who left you all alone down here?
It was just my imagination.
I'm playing a new game with Chauncey.
The scavenger hunt list. That's fun.
Chauncey says you're not allowed to play with us.
Oh.
Because you left him. I need something happy.
Something happy. Ugh. I thought bugs freaked you out.
If I can finish my list, Chauncey will take me on a trip to the place he's from.
something that hurts.
Alice?
But it was just my imagination.
You've been spending time with a new friend?
Running away with me.
He asked you to do something that hurt you.
That was part of the game.
Does that seem like a game a good friend would want to play?
Maybe we shouldn't play together anymore, Chauncey. Maybe we shouldn't be friends. No.
Alice! She's lost, but we're gonna find her.
It was just my imagination.
Every culture has entities that tether to the young. We call them imaginary friends. You are always playing with your imaginary friend. When the connection is severed, the entity becomes enraged.
He says he's right behind you.
But it was just my imagination.
Can I hang out with your imaginary friend?
He's not imaginary. He's not your friend.